Hello again, people. This is the unheard of fourth video of the day from Scott. I'm going to talk about the Uvalde Elementary School, Robb Elementary shooting. I've seen something that is distressing. Like I've said before, it takes usually a couple days for stuff to flush out. And to get to the solidified official version of what happened, and we've covered a bit of that the last couple of days, and now it's starting to come unraveled for them. We got a bunch of video to show you, which I didn't set up the video, so I got to go through all of this to start one of the videos. We'll start with one, of course, but we're not going to show that right this second. How about stop? Okay, so we've got to have that set and ready to go for you. Sorry about that, folks. I certainly hope nothing embarrassing popped up there. We'll go over some of the videos. The shit seems to be coming apart at the seams for them. And the reason is 60 minutes. There was a 60-minute delay between when this guy, the shooter we'll call him, made his way down the hallway in Robb Elementary and made his way into an open doorway. By the way, they're supposed to be closed and locked. But he made his way into an open doorway into a room that apparently was two classrooms with a big divider wall between them because it was a big room, big space. Otherwise, like a conference room or whatever it was. But the big divider wall was open. The shooter went in there, closed and barricaded himself in at about 11:44. And it was 12:44 before they made entry. And unfortunately, and I hate to fucking say this, but that's where all the kids died. The ones who were shot and killed. They died in there. And there was a lot of, according to the police, once the person went in that room and closed the door, there was gunfire. So they knew, and probably what you imagine children would do when being shot. Listen, this is fucking horrendous. Just talking about this, having to talk about this is fucking horrendous. And again, I'm not a cop, but I'm going to tell you, this is beyond suspect. This is beyond suspect. Same thing happened with Columbine, by the way. Same thing happened with Parkland, by the way. And it is highly suspicious. I'm going to talk about why right now. Right the fuck now. I want to start off first and foremost with this. This is probably the worst fucking take I have ever seen. Let me just check this real quick to make sure we are recording. Good. This is the worst take I've seen on this so far. This is Jason Whitlock. This is this man right here. He's an ESPN commentator, and he works for Blaze Media now. He might not still be for fucking with ESPN. I don't see him listed as ESPN. Maybe he said something, and now he's with Blaze Media. Get fearless swag at Blaze Media, whatever the fuck that is. He does Apple Podcasts. Maybe he's out on his own because he said some shit. This is his take. Our culture has moved such a negative direction in the past decade, I'm not sure first responders would run up in the world towers today. Cultural rot has consequences. When you make heroes of people who contribute nothing and demonize those who risk everything. That's such a fucking bad take on every level. That's a bad take on every level. Let me just start off with that, and I'll explain briefly why I mean that. First of all, anybody running up into the fucking a steel and concrete high-rise building that's on fire in the top, I don't know, 4 or 5 floors, they have no expectation of that building collapsing into its own footprint. That was a shock to everyone, not just those first responders, but also to engineers and architects and steel workers and people who make things like, oh, I don't know, steel and concrete high-rise buildings, because it had never happened before. It's never happened since. So they had no idea something running up into the floors that were not on fire was risking their lives. However, they did run into a burning building, and we've all seen Towering Inferno, so we know it did take a lot of courage to run up into that fucking building. The kind of courage that some officers, now I'm harsh on some officers, and I said if anybody was standing around doing nothing while this is happening, they shouldn't have a fucking job anymore. I have to take a little bit of that back, and I'll explain why I say that. Some officers don't have that kind of courage. Others do. And for Jason to assume no officers would run into a burning building right now to save somebody because of cultural rot is extremely dismissive. Because there are officers out there who would do just that. Lastly, I'll say this. Try to put this off on culture or society, or for those officers not entering that fucking room for 64 minutes while children bled out on the fucking floor. To try to put that off on cultural rot or society, or we just don't love the cops enough right now in this country. That's pathetic and that's disgusting. And Jason Whitlock can go fuck himself. I know he's a very well-educated man. He's a lot smarter than I am, but that's the dumbest fucking take I have heard in a long time for a number of issues. For a number of fucking issues. That's just the worst take I've heard for a while. Aside from that, let's move on to this. Let's talk about this. Where the fuck do we start with this? Well, let's have a listen. Let's do the videos now, because I have several of them. I'm going to do videos of the press conferences given down in Texas. And you'll hear a lot of people who are angry, or reporters who are getting frustrated because they're not getting information. And listen to how he dances around and refuses to provide that said information. Have a listen.
Potentially parents of the students were urging the police to go in while you were waiting for a tactical SWAT team, even that some parents were asking to borrow police armor so they could make a counter-assault on the school.
I have heard that information, but we have not verified that yet. So
what part have you verified?
We have not verified if that a true statement or not. Or is it just rumor out there? So
okay, is it just rumor out there that a parent said, please give me your fucking body armor and your gun and I'll do it? If you're not going to go in, I got a kid in there, give me your body armor, please, and I'll go do it. Well, it is confirmed. Somewhere here it is confirmed. Okay, so I can't find it. No, I can't find it. Student's father pleaded with officers to give him a gun and vest so he could enter the school and save his children. That's not a fucking rumor, folks. That's that man right there. That's exactly what he said. His name is Victor Luna. If you want to call him a liar to his face, officer, be my guest. But I wouldn't. He said, I told one of the officers myself if they didn't want to go in there, let me borrow his gun and vest and I'll go in there and handle it myself. And he told me no. adding that he wanted the officers to go in there and get rid of that man, that shooter. So that's not a rumor. There he is. He's the one who said it. You want to call him a liar to his face? Be my guest, but just make sure that you got the CNN and MSNBC and ABC and all those cameras there to videotape it while you do that shit. Okay? Because I'd love to see that.
You got to understand, we're getting a lot of information we're trying to track down and see what is true. We want to vet it. That's all I have.
We understand.
Thank you so much.
Can you explain to
What the fuck is he smiling about?
So look, we appreciate the questions.
What were the officers doing between 11:44 and 12:45?
I got you.
What were the officers doing between 11:44 and 12:44? I got you. No, that's a question. I got you. It's not a not an answer.
So I have taken all your questions into consideration. We will be doing updates. We will be doing updates. I've taken all your questions. How did he barricade the door? Can you tell us that one little bit of information that would keep your guys from getting in the door? How did the 18-year-old who was busy shooting a bunch of kids take the time to barricade the door that you couldn't, your full-grown men couldn't open the door and get in and save some of those kids? Would you please explain us to that little bit? Just, I've taken your questions and now I'm going to go back. He literally says he's going to go back and consult with his people and come up with the answers. That's what he says. I got you. Yes, sir.
You guys have said that he was barricaded. Can you explain to us how he was barricaded and why you guys cannot breach that door?
So I have taken all your questions into consideration. We will be doing updates. We will be doing updates to answer those questions.
Answer that question now, sir.
What is your name?
Shimon Prokopets from CNN.
I hear you.
Because we've been given
bad
information. So why don't you clear all of this up now and explain to us how it is that your officers who were in there for an hour, yes, rescuing people, but yet no one was able to get inside that room.
Shimon, we will circle back with you. We want to answer all your questions.
Circle back.
We want to give you the why. That's our job. So give us time. I'm taking all your questions. I'm taking them back to talk to the team.
Can you tell us how the door was barricaded?
Look, thank you for being here. We'll talk.
Thanks for coming. Try the veal. I want to talk first. I want to do this real quick. And I'll show the last video. Remember, as I've been trying to give you updates, the story was he was confronted by officers, supposedly, before he made entrance into the fucking school. I also told you that in the one video we have of him, and I showed you where on the video earlier today, supposedly that's him, and he's not being confronted by jack shit. They said he didn't make it. He had to go around the outside. But the video shows clearly the dude goes into the building. And that's when the video ends. He wasn't confronted by anyone. I want to clear that up. That a school district police officer confronted the suspect. That's not accurate. He walked in unobstructed. He was not confronted by anyone. Now, I mentioned that earlier this morning when I was talking about this in the video, and I said, how is that possible? 18-year-old kid is confronted by the fucking police officers, and he's still alive? He's allowed to walk away from that confrontation carrying a fucking $3,000 AR-15 and a tactical outfit? Doesn't make sense. And so I guess whoever's helping them with this fucking story realized, yeah, that's not a good look. Officers were calling for additional resources. Tactical teams are needed. We need specialty equipment. We needed body armor. We needed sharpshooters. We needed negotiators. It's a complex situation. he says. I'm guessing that's Escalon who's doing the talking. I'm not entirely sure, but that's not why I wanted to show you that. I wanted to show you this. This is from ABC News, and this was from today on ABC News. They're talking about the security measures that were in place, one of which was they had a bunch of cops working for their school district, looking at schools. They only have 3 or 4 schools. It's not like this New York City. They got 3 or 4 cops. They got 3 or 4 cops, but they only have 3 or 4 schools. Quote, as Ramos approached the school, he was engaged by a school district police officer who was then allegedly shot by Ramos, sources said. Well, we just heard that was bullshit. At one point, students heard banging on a window before their teacher saw the shooter with a big gun. A 4th grade student who was inside the school at the time said in an interview with ABC News describing the non-stop gunshots that followed. Ramos then entered the school, barricaded himself in the classroom, and opened fire, killing 19 students, a teacher, law enforcement said. And why do I do that? Why do I want to show you that? I want to show you that because that's the room in which the carnage took place. This whole thing about waiting to go in that fucking room, that's where 19 kids died. 19 children lost their lives, and 1 teacher. They knew the shooting was taking place, obviously. They knew kids were crying and screaming, obviously. And they didn't make entrance for an hour? Man. Let's do this last video, shall we?
We need specialty equipment. We need body armor. We need precision riflemen, negotiators. So during that time that they're making those calls to bring in help to solve this problem and stop it immediately, they're also evacuating personnel. When I say personnel, students, teachers. There's a lot going on. A lot complex situation. They're measuring.
It's a complex situation. They had to get body armor. People with tactical experience. They're measuring. Meanwhile, children are being shot and killed. Kids are bleeding. They're measuring.
Approximately an hour later, U.S. Border Patrol tactical teams arrive. They make entry.
U.S. Border Patrol tactical teams arrive and they make entry. They were waiting for BORTEC, which we talked about the other day. Waiting for BORTEC. Let me show you something. Just for your own personal edification. This is BORTEC. That's what they were waiting for. Would you like to see who was waiting? That was waiting. Waiting for people who, as far as I can tell, the only difference in gear is helmets. And I'm sure they have helmets. That was waiting. And how do we know that was waiting? Well, not only are there images of them with their helmets waiting, but there's also multiple fucking reports of them waiting, including videos. She's here giving an interview, and it's early enough into the fucking process. The ambulances are down there doing nothing. All the bodies are this way. All the kids are this way. This is part of that 1 hour of them waiting. She's been told that the suspect is in custody. Apparently not. But apparently, while this 2-minute video plays out, somebody shows up someplace and everyone starts to go into, okay, it's action mode. No more measuring. Now we're going to get to action.
Well, guys, we are still waiting for some more details, exactly what happened out here today. We do know that one person is in custody. We talked to the sheriff of Uvalde County, who said DPS is taking over the investigation, and we're waiting for information. I've been here about 20 minutes, and I can tell you already this is a very difficult scene out here. Let me step out of the way so you can...
Did they tell people on the ground that the suspect was in custody while they were waiting for an hour for BORTEC to show up because they didn't want them to be pissed off? Well, they were pissed off, and I'll show you that in a minute.
See a little better of what we're seeing out here. Border Patrol, Uvalde, City Police, Uvalde County, DPS, multiple law enforcement agencies from...
As you can see, all the fucking first responders, all the ambulance crews, all the fucking cops are all just milling about. If this was after they opened the door and they got the guys, or the guy, or the guys, they would be actively involved in dealing with the kids and on the floor in that fucking room. But they're not. They're out here. So ergo, this is probably within the first hour. She says she got there. She says she got there 20 minutes ago. Don't know exactly what time it is.
Different counties, surrounding counties, in addition to EMS units from Kenny County, from Medina County, from Valverde County, all of these border communities coming together right here to support this community in whatever happened out here today. Once again, we are waiting for some specific details. We do know from Uvalde Police Department that the students are being transported to the Willie De Leon Civic Center to meet with their parents. We just saw those buses pull out about 5 minutes ago. You can still see there is a large law enforcement present in the back of the school. We are actually standing in the front of the school. This is as far as...
That's their SWAT. This looks like San Antonio PD.
We can get to the scene. I can just tell from the faces out here of law enforcement.
Now here we go.
This is very difficult.
This is why I want you to see this. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, these guys come running from the back of the building, or the front of the building, and they're heading back toward the back where the shooting took place in one of the buildings in the back. I'm not talking about just those three guys either.
Out here. And we're still waiting to find out exactly what happened. We do see some more law enforcement, looks like DPS, Border Patrol, running into the school right now. We are not sure why. We don't know what's going on. We are standing here. It looks like that perhaps is a Sheriff Nolasco also running into the building right now.
There's the sheriff with his white hat.
Some kind of urgency into the building, into the back of the school.
Some kind of emergency.
Get some information soon. There are some parents standing out
here. Maybe now it's time to go into the fucking door and see what the fuck's happening.
Most of the parents who
get
are
those kids.
waiting to pick up their kids have gone to the Willie De Leon Civic Center. If you're still wondering where to pick up your child, that is where the Uvalde Police Department is telling us to go right now.
There goes that big motherfucker. People at the location were upset. I want to read this to you. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Uvalde, Texas. Residents here expressed anger and frustration Thursday about the time it took for law enforcement to end an elementary school shooting in which 19 children and 2 teachers died. As videos circulated on social media showing parents confronting police outside the building. Remember, certainly a lot of video cameras and security cameras in the building. None have been released so far. The police were doing nothing, said Angeli Rose Gomez, who, after learning about the shooting, drove 40 miles to Robb Elementary School, where her children are in 2nd and 3rd grade. They were just standing there outside the fence. They weren't going in there or even running anywhere. That's what she's talking about. That's what she saw. There they were, standing there waiting. State officials have said the local police were at the school within a few minutes of the gunman entering the building and exchanged gunfire with him. That didn't happen. But they were unable to gain access to a classroom where he barricaded himself, firing on officers. We don't even know if that happened. Miss Gomez, a farm supervisor, said she was one of a number of numerous parents he began encouraging, first politely and then with more urgency, the police and other law enforcement to enter the school. After a few moments, she said, federal marshals approached her and put her in handcuffs, telling her she was being arrested for intervening in an investigation. They arrested her for trying to motivate them to go save their fucking kids while they were waiting for an hour. He was in the room with the fucking children. Shots had been fired, and they were waiting for something. What on God's green earth could they possibly have been waiting for? That is what they had ready to go in there after a dumbass 18-year-old kid with no training and no real tactical armor, at least no plates in it. He had dropped his bag of ammo outside the fucking building. And that stood around waiting for that. Now, if you don't find that suspicious, I certainly can't help you. We started off this thing talking about police officers and my take earlier today about how I felt about officers who wouldn't put themselves in harm's way because their first mission was to make sure they went home at the end of the day. I should temper that a bit, but only in so much as this. I don't adhere to Jason Whitlock's bullshit. I know full well that there are people out there, there are officers out there, there are firemen out there, there are first responders out there who would and do, from time to time, put themselves in harm's way for the people they're trying to help. That does happen. In this case, and possibly with the case of Parkland, and possibly, well, certainly in the case of Parkland, because I remember that they had specific orders not to make entry. Same thing with Columbine. I'd like to know if that's what the case was here. For some reason, they had to wait for BORTEC when they know they had SWAT teams who were fully capable and I'm sure willing to go in and breach that door and make entry. If that is exactly what happened, if that's what happened, if they heard that door closed, gunshots going off, and children screaming, who the fuck wouldn't? What kind of monster wouldn't fucking go in there? Unless they were being ordered not to. And if that's the case, that story needs to come out. The sheriff in fucking at Parkland, he got into a shitload of trouble. I believe he lost his job and then tried to get it back using his political connections, but I believe he lost his job because it was an order. And if memory serves, same kind of thing happened in fucking Columbine. So that's yet another nail in Jason Whitlock's takes coffin. And that is, cultural rot aside, they might have been under orders not to make entry, in spite of the fact that they wanted to. I don't know. I wasn't there for the whole thing. I wasn't there for any of it. So, I don't know. I feel like I was there for the whole thing after doing fucking all this fucking work on this shit today and having to go through all this shit. It's an offensive, truly an offensive fucking story. And we'll see how it shapes out. We'll see how it pans out. But putting handcuffs on mothers because they simply want you to get up, drop your fucking water bottle, fuck your hydration, take your goddamn gear and your training and your experience and go in there and open that fucking door. Because there are kids in there. And unless he was clowning around and shooting the ceiling, there are kids in there who are bleeding. Could children's lives have been saved? And that's why that dude at the fucking microphone, at the podium, can't answer any questions. Quite frankly. Something's really wrong with this story. Anyway, I just wanted to clear some things up with you guys. I will talk to you later, and I am not doing another fucking video today.